Hi everybody, and welcome to Deconstructing Unschooling. I'm Amy Milstein, and today we're going to talk about the difference between freedom and license. Now, the great thing about unschooling is that our kids can learn in freedom, and what that means really is that they don't have a lot of have-tos in their learning. They can learn what they like at their own pace and in their own time. And even if you don't consider yourself what people deem a radical unschooler, unschooling permeates all parts of life. So freedom is the great thing about unschooling. We are free to travel when school is in session. We are free to go on outings to places that other kids don't get to go because they're under the rules and restrictions of their school and of the life that then is set up because of schooling. License, however, is when this is taken too far. In other words, license is when it's extreme and people become disrespectful or they don't heed other people in their actions. They do things that can be harmful or disruptive. And I wish I could say that I've never seen this behavior in the unschooling community, but unfortunately I have. Sandra Dodd wrote once that just because you're unschoolers, it doesn't give you the license to do whatever you want, wherever you want in public. And she gave the example that if you take your child into a store that sells very fragile crystal figurines, for example, and there are signs all over the store that say, please do not touch, you can't just say, well, I'm going to let my kid play with that because we're unschoolers and, we have the freedom to do whatever we want. That's not how it works. However, if you want to purchase one of the figurines and then give it to your child to play with and do with as they will, that's totally your choice. So I think this is a line that gets blurred a lot and it gives unschoolers and the unschooling community a bad name. I've actually had experiences in my own home with a family we had invited to the city, and just as they were preparing to leave, the daughter approached my then brand new sewing machine and started messing with it. And I asked her if she knew how to sew, and she said no. And I said, well, I would be happy to show you how to use the machine sometime if you want when you come back. When I offered to help her know how to use the machine properly, she told me she didn't need help and began unthreading it and pressing buttons, and fortunately the machine wasn't turned on and she didn't find the on switch. And this all happened with her mother within a few feet. And since I didn't know them very well, I was a little hesitant to completely jump in, as I would have if it had been one of my children's close friends. I would have gone up to them and said, this machine can hurt you and can be hurt if you don't know what you're doing with it. So that, in my opinion, was an example of disrespecting someone else's belongings, disrespecting someone else's space, and an example of license, which is not unschooling. Unschooling is about freedom in learning, and to a great extent freedom in the way your life is structured, but it certainly isn't about disrespecting other people or doing things that may cause injury or harm to their belongings or their person. Part of being a great unschooling parent is modeling great behavior, and I hope that I can model respect toward other people and that I can guide my children in that direction, and that if they behave disrespectfully, I'm going to have a discussion with them about it. They are human beings. I would never lay down an arbitrary law, but I think it's important that children also know about consequences. If you choose to curse at someone or treat them in a disrespectful manner, that is your choice as a human being, but you must be aware of the consequences, that there are also consequences to every action. And that other person also is a human being, and they have the right to respond. And if you behave in this way, you may be seen as no more than rude, but you may be seen as even uneducated or unintelligent or wild or without ethics or morals. All these things that I've actually seen and seen written about unschoolers or heard spoken about unschoolers. And although 95% of the unschoolers I know don't fall into that category and are wonderful, respectful, amazing people, there are those who have taken this idea of freedom to its extreme and to where it falls into the category of license or licentiousness. And unfortunately, that's the stuff that gets noticed. So the whole point of this is A, to say that that is not what unschooling is about, if you're wondering, if you're new, and B, to sort of check in with yourself, check in with your family. Are we being respectful? I think most of us are. I don't even think it's an issue for the most part. But recently I've seen some examples of the other extreme, and it bothers me because it gives a bad name to such a great group of people, a great community of people. Freedom is wonderful, license is not so wonderful. It's not what we aspire to here. So that's it for today, except since I mentioned my sewing machine, I sew. I've sewn since I was a little kid, and for probably 20 years my sewing machine was an old gear-driven Singer, which I love and I still have. But then a few years ago I received a new machine as a birthday present, and I love it as well. So I was thinking, we all have heard the names, I think, Elias Howe and Isaac Singer, and those two guys are sort of considered the inventors of the modern day sewing machine. Elias Howe actually patented his machine in 1846, and it was the first automated machine that really worked. There had been a few other attempts before them, but they were not wholly successful. And his made the lock stitch, and it had two separate strands of thread. And then Isaac Singer took that one further, and he's the reason that the needle goes up and down in our machines. And though these two men sort of contributed equally, they were rivals at the time, and they fought over Howe fought the patent because he felt that Singer had infringed on his patent rights, and in fact he won that battle. Both men went on, obviously, to be very successful, and they're the reasons that me and anyone else who loves sewing can use our machines the way we do today. So that's it. Thanks for being here. I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.